We're live. Okay, so we are live now. We're gonna let the participants, they're starting to join in. Welcome everyone. Oh, I like. Well, you're not unmuted, Willie.
I won't do that again. I got you. I'm back.
Oh, I like that. So what did you, we'll talk about it later. I gotta go.
I have a green screen.
Oh, you do have a green screen. All right, so I'm going to try my best. Welcome everyone. We're a little early, so we didn't want you all hanging out there too long. But as you can see, we are almost ready to get started. So give us a few minutes and we will get started shortly. Yeah, I'm gonna wait until after my welcome. Welcome everyone. I would call your names. Some of you may not want to be recognized, but I see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, we'll just go ahead and get started. What do you all say? Good idea? Okay, wonderful. So we want to welcome you all to, this is now our third forum. We are citizens, just like most of you. And we are, oh, what happened to my screen? Okay, sorry, it just went away. False alarm. Demita and I got together. I'm Daphne Jordan, by the way, for those of you who don't know me. I am and have been a Fulton County resident for a long time, born and raised in Atlanta. I'm not a Grady baby. And I have lived in South Fulton since 2010, but I grew up in Southwest Atlanta. And Demita, I'm with Safer Communities. So that is an advocacy group that I started in 2016 that deals with safety. Started about the slider crimes, and then it's evolved into a group of now 4,000 people. And we share a lot of information to keep us all updated and informed. So if you're not in the group, it's now public, but it will go private pretty soon so that we can talk about some things in a more private forum. But I'm joined with Demita Chapman, and she is with Citizens for Excellence and Elected Leaders. We got together and said, listen, because of COVID, we want to have a way to give you all information, the public information about candidates, because they can't go door to door. We started with the Fulton County Superior Court judges and the probate court judges. We had that forum. Then we had the sheriff, Fulton County Sheriff Forum, candidates for sheriff. And now, drum roll, we are here with District 4 school board candidates. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our wonderful, elegant, and awesome moderator, Donna Lowry. Donna is a veteran Atlanta journalist who worked for nearly 30 years at 11 Alive and currently hosts the Lawmakers TV show on Georgia Public Broadcasting. So Donna, it's all yours.
Thank you.
Okay, we can hear you now. Oh, wait.
All right, I'll take it away. Demita,
Okay.
you don't want to say a few words before I get started?
Oh, yes, Demita.
Okay, I can talk later, Donna.
Okay, that's fine. Well, good evening and welcome to the Fulton County School Board District 4 Candidates Forum. I'm excited to be the moderator. It is important for us to get to know you, and thanks for allowing us this opportunity to do so. We are happy to have with us the NAACP as a supporter of this forum, and I'd like to introduce the NAACP Atlanta Chapter President, Richard Rose, and also with us is NAACP Second Vice President of the Atlanta Chapter, Miss Karen Renee. So would you both like to say a few words, beginning with you, Mr. Rose?
Thank you so much. Always good to be here and grateful for this forum and for this venue, because the full school board is the county's largest budget. And it's about preparing the next generations. It's an awesome responsibility for school board members to serve, because they have to care about people. They have to love children. They have to understand the business of education, the objectives of education, and the obstacles to education. And we're grateful that people have come and decided they feel like they have a commitment to service, because it's such a vitally important role. And the other vitally important role is for the voters to come out to hear about these candidates and pick one. And so we're grateful for Daphne and Demeter and you, our lovely host, our lovely moderator who done such great work in Atlanta for a number of great years. So we appreciate everybody here, and take it away, now she's second vice president, but she kind of runs things. So we're grateful for Karen Renee. Karen. She's muted, I think, yeah.
I think you may have to unmute her, Daphne.
Yeah, Daphne, I think you have to unmute her. So while we're trying to figure out the unmute, Karen is also Eastport City Council. It's her second term, and they've done a great job. Eastport City Council has been out there. As they say, there's no point like Eastport. Karen, you unmuted now.
I don't think she can hear you.
I don't think she can hear us. Karen, can't hear us.
All right, we'll keep
Okay.
going then, and maybe at some point that she'll be able to join us a little bit later. We know that she considers this very important. Actually, I have a quote from her that I can use and explain a little bit of how she feels about things. She said that times like these demonstrate how important the role of politics and the right to vote are in our daily lives. We cannot leave the choice of our political leadership up to others, even if we rely upon trusted sources for guidance. We must take the time to cast our votes up and down the ballot. And that is from Karen Renee with the NAACP Atlanta chapter second vice president. She would have said it much more eloquently herself. We're going to get started now. Next, I'll explain some of the procedures for this forum. We'll begin the forum with each of the candidates giving a 2-minute opening statement. After the opening statements, I'll ask each candidate a list of questions from a predetermined list created by the organizers of this event. All candidates will have the chance to answer the same questions, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. At some point, I'll open up the forum to questions that can be written in by the participants. They can go to the Q&A at the bottom of the screen on the bottom of the Zoom and ask those questions. And if the candidates want, they can answer the questions there, or I will select some of the questions and say them out loud. One thing you should know is that even if a question is designated for one candidate, all of the candidates will have the chance to answer that question. We will screen those questions for relevance to avoid duplication and to assure that there's adherence to guidelines and ground rules. Finally, near the end of the program, each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to say their closing statements. I am keeping a timer on everyone, and I will politely ask you to finish up your statement as soon as we hit 2 minutes. So let's begin. We have 3 candidates for District 4 Fulton County School Board with us. To get everybody acquainted with Fulton County School District, District 4, let me give you an idea of the schools involved. Creekside, Langston Hughes, and Westlake High Schools, Bear Creek, Camp Creek, Renaissance, and Sandtown Middle Schools, and A. Philip Randolph, Campbell, Cliftondale, Evelyn C. West, Gullette, Liberty Point, Oakley, Palmetto, Renaissance, Seaborn Lee, Stonewall Tell, and Wolf Creek Elementary Schools. So now to introduce the candidates in alphabetical order: Willie Davis, Franchesca Warren, and Sandra Wright. And now welcome to each one of you. We're going to get started with each one of you. I should have asked you to each wave when I said your names or something like that. Your names are up on the screen, so that helps a lot. Let's get started with each candidate giving a 2-minute opening statement, and let's begin with Sandra Wright.
Hello, my name is Dr. Sandra Wright, and I'm a candidate for Fulton County School Board, District 4. I have resided in the county with my husband and family for over 20 years. All of my children attended and graduated from Fulton County schools, and my husband and I were always involved in their education. I'm a graduate of Florida A&M University with a bachelor's and master's in education. My PhD was focused on training and organizational development. I attend Open Word Christian Ministries. I have trained new and experienced teachers as well as school administrators. I've been a PTA president, treasurer, and secretary. I've served as a band booster officer and volunteered and worked in every aspect of educating and preparing students from kindergarten to graduation from high school to receiving their master's and doctorate degrees. I have written 2 children's books. One is Queenie Imani, Queen of Love and Smiles, and J. Christopher Surprise. It is through all these experiences that I saw a need to offer my service to the South Fulton community to bring new leadership to the school board. Too many of our schools in South Fulton are ranked lower than the surrounding school districts. This is a sign that the old leadership failed to offer our students a quality education and a stronger future. Therefore, new ideas, new approaches are needed. I know we as a community can do better. Our children deserve the best. We want them to be successful students and citizens. Offering a good foundation at the elementary level, continued support at the middle level, and providing innovative programs for our high school students which offer career, trade, and college opportunities is critical. I need your vote and your support to make the needed changes in South Fulton schools. I am running for quality education and quality teachers for all students. Our nation, state, and community will be facing many new challenges. Yes.
Thank you very much. That's your 2 minutes. Maybe you'll get some of that other stuff in as we progress.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Now, Willie Davis, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Donna. Again, my name is Willie Davis, and I'm a native of Atlanta. I'm a product of the Atlanta public school system. I graduated from Fort Valley State University with a degree in political science and a degree also in criminal justice. I also attended Clark Atlanta University for public administration and political science, and I'm a graduate of the John Marshall Law School. I've been extremely involved in our schools probably for the last 20 years. My experience for the most part is that I've been a criminal defense attorney for almost 24 years. I realized that most of the clients that I represented were between the age of 17 and 25. I realized that when we came to the end of trying to resolve their cases, that most of them did not have beyond an 8th or a 10th grade education. So I realized that education was part of the problem. I've served as PTA president from the elementary, middle, and high school level. I've also served as a former school board chair of a private school where I built a new K-12 school where I eliminated a debt and I doubled the enrollment of that school. I think that our schools with active participation by parents, by teachers, by administrators could we can succeed with them. And I've been, like I said, I've been very active in our schools for the last 20 years by serving, and I hope to continue that service by representing you on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Franchesca Warren, your 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Franchesca Warren, and I'm the proud mother of 4 children, all 4 who have or still attend South Fulton schools. My oldest son is a sophomore at George Washington University as a Posse Scholar, and I have spent the last 19 years working as a teacher, instructional coach, content specialist, and literacy coordinator in both Atlanta Public Schools and Marietta City Schools. I received my undergraduate degree from the University of Memphis with a degree in English education and also a master's of education. I'm currently enrolled at Georgia State in their educational leadership program for the doctoral. I started the Facebook advocacy group, South Fulton Parents for Education, in 2016, after realizing that our schools are in need of help to make sure that parents understand what is at stake when our children are in those walls. From that advocacy group, I was able to start a 501(c)(3) for South Fulton Parents for Education. And to date, we have thousands of parents in the group, and we have actively legislated and worked with the school board in order to exact change and to bridge the gap between home and school. I believe that in my time in education in 19 years, the one thing that we need in South Fulton are schools and parents who work together. I have spent the last 19 years not only training teachers and principals and superintendents on the national level, but also on the state level. I've presented at national conferences. I have written 4 books. I have created podcasts all around education, mainly for the main reason that I want every child to receive a quality education despite their zip code. For me, this is personal. I'm a mother from a 5-year-old to a 19-year-old. If we don't get our schools right, if we aren't all on the same page around our schools, we can't get anything right in our communities. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now we'll start with the predetermined questions, and I'll start with Willie Davis, then Franchesca Warren, and Sandra Wright. And that question is, the first one, what motivates you to want to become a school board member? What motivates you to want to become a school board member? Willie Davis?
Well, Donna, as you know, I've been involved in PTA since my oldest son was in pre-K, and that was during the year of 2004. And I've been extremely active in that, going from, like I said, from Randolph to Sandtown to Westlake, serving as a PTA person. But not only those 3 schools, but I've also been active in the Georgia PTA and on the district level, where I have worked with every school that's in our district now. I have a relationship now with every teacher that's in our district. And I think that and as a PTA president, I realized the importance of listening to parents. Also been involved, I've also had an opportunity to sit down and talk to teachers, to administrators, to those in the district and those in our schools. So that has motivated me to take my service to a different level. I think I can be extremely effective on the school board. I have been, like I said, I've been working in our community with our schools for over 20 years, and I know what the needs are for our individual schools and can do the best that I can, not only for South Fulton School, but all Fulton County schools, all 95,000, because I think the problem in the past is that we have not had a working relationship with the board members on the north side. So a lot of times our discussions are, we don't get in South Fulton what they get in North. And I understand the importance of working together and serving on the school board.
All right, thank you very much. Franchesca Warren.
For me, it's as a parent, as a mother for the last 19 years, my son's in college. I've been the parent that's at the school asking questions, being involved. I've served on SGC. I've worked with teachers, worked with principals. And what I know is that there is a gap between what is actually needed in schools and policy. And so for me, running for school board is personal because our schools are the hubs of our communities. And until we have that, where there is an open relationship, where principals feel supported, teachers feel supported, families feel heard, then there will always be that gap. So for me, I know that in order to get that, you have to change policy. So for me, running for school board is personal in that I have a 5-year-old who is about to be in kindergarten in Fulton County schools. I want to make sure that the education that she receives is the same education that she would receive at other schools that maybe have more funding or maybe have other programs. And so for me, what I want best for my children should be what I want best for all children. We're all working towards making sure that our children have access to those things. So for me, it's personal.
All right, thank you very much. Sandra Wright.
Yes, for me, it is also personal. I have been a PTA president, treasurer at Palmetto. I've been on the governor's board there. I've been PTA at Creekside, Bear Creek. I've been actively involved in every aspect of education at those 3 schools. I have been actively involved with all the PTA meetings, the parents there, the teachers. I've had a good rapport with the teachers over the years as well as the principals. I have seen some policies and procedures that have kept us a little bit lower ranked than other school systems surrounding us. I would like to be a part of that so we could bring our schools up to par. We can compete with other people internationally and globally with our new policies that we can run and take a look at. We really need to share information and benchmark with other people as well. I'm having a problem here on the side over here, but I really would like to be a part of that and be your next Fulton County School Board member.
Right, thank you very much. The next question is, what attributes are essential for successful school board members? I'll start with Franchesca Warren, then Sandra Wright, then Willie Davis. Ms. Warren?
To be a successful board member, you have to know how to negotiate, build relationships, and be able to see the truth and find solutions. So many times when we are talking in regards to South Fulton schools, the aspect is, we don't have what South Fulton schools have, or why don't we have this? There has to be somebody that will be willing to get up and to go to the North Side and speak to those, not only those board members, but those families. In South Fulton Parents for Education, we were the first group who reached out to parents from the North Side and actually attended board meetings with them so that we could talk about what is happening, what do we see, what do you guys have, how are you doing this? And you have to be able to cross that aisle and find out. You also have to be able to negotiate. It is 2020 and we are on the cusp of this COVID pandemic. You need somebody on your board who, number one, knows how to go in and ask for what students and families need. So many times our schools, our teachers, our parents, our families are always asking, well, what about this and what about that? We have to be able to ask for what we want and find creative ways in order to get it done. In addition, you have to have a working understanding of education, and not just education of you being in a school and volunteering, but education. You cannot make policy unless you have actually sat in front of children and taught them. For me, I was a teacher for 12 years before I transitioned out of the classroom. You have to know what it's like to sit in front of 35 children and to teach them and what's at stake for them and their families. That way you know how policy affects students, families, and communities. So those are things that, in order to be an effective board member, you have to have those things, and you have to be willing to negotiate and not be afraid, and to think outside of the box, and to bring people in so that they can help you as you brainstorm on strategies and on solutions around what our schools, what our families, what our teachers are facing.
Can hear? I'm losing.
I'm sorry, it's me. I was not muted. These are tough times for all of us. I forgot that I muted myself. Go ahead. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Okay, repeat the question because I kind of got lost in the transition with not hearing you. But go ahead with the question again.
So the question is, what do you see as the board's, what board's, I think it was, what attributes are essential for school board members? Did I ask that one?
I think that's what it is. Well, one of the first things, you have to have great leadership skills, and you have to be able to know how to network and negotiate with people. Also, benchmarking. One of the things I would like to do is benchmark with North Fulton to see what they're doing and what makes them better than we are, or either benchmark with other counties' school board members and see what they're doing, making sure that we can tie in and collaborate and make our school district better, not just for District 4, but for all districts. Also, I have been a 5th grade teacher, and I have been dealing with parents, and I know some of the challenges that they've gone through. I would like to continue to be a parent advocate as well as a child's advocate. I want to be able to support friendly policies and healthy policies as well. As I keep thinking about some of the challenges that we've been through, I want to be able to talk with some of the other school board members on how they dealt with the same challenges we are having down here and how they made it much better for the students and the community there as well.
All right, thank you very much. Willie Davis.
You know, it's as simple as being able to listen. And I think that's been the problem, that we really have not taken the opportunity to listen to parents. We have not taken the opportunity to listen to teachers, nor have we taken the opportunity to listen to principals. So that's one of the things that, and let me just use an example. One of the things that the current board member, when she has her community meeting, is always telling us what the board has done, not what was pending or what's not about to go on. So you got to listen. I don't have to sit in a classroom in front of 35 people to understand what a teacher is going through. I listen to those teachers. I've been listening to those teachers since my son was at Randolph in pre-K. I've also have a relationship, as I said before, that I've been working with these teachers and listening to what their issues are and also what the parents' issues are in the community. So I don't think, and also to go with that is the relationship. I've worked with those in North Fulton, with parents and those on the board. And I also have a working relationship with our elected officials that represent us on the local and the county and the state level. I think that's important. A lot of people that run for office always say to have a partnership with the school board, but I have those relationships and I think that they're important. A lot of it is not just implementing board policy, but it's being an advocate, a strong supporter of our schools. While I may have some criticism about our school, I have never, ever made a public statement criticizing our schools. I've criticized and talked to some principals and some in the district, but I think that we should always have a positive about our schools. So I think you need to listen and be able to be, I guess I want to use the word, a cheerleader for Fulton County schools, not just on the south side, but also on the north, because we have got to work together. And if we don't work together, it's always going to be that one part of the county gets more than what we get. So I think listening to what the problems are, what the issues are, is crucial.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Then the next question, what resources and services beyond academics do you believe schools and the community should provide to support student well-being and achievement? Resources beyond academics. And we'll start with Sandra Wright.
Well, some of the things that I think other resources should be is maybe a citizens academy to be able to talk about what's going on in the district. Also finding out different ways that we can help with things such as bullying, not only bullying with the students, but bullying with other staff members, teachers, because there are different levels of bullying. Some other resources that we could tie in is just contacting some of the community members, especially places like Coca-Cola that's in our district, finding out what can you do? Can we do anything such as project-based learning with our high school students? I'm really a proponent of project-based learning. Some of these things are the resources I would like to tie in and collaborate with all of the council people that I've been in my district, some of the council people, and see what kind of, maybe even an internship program for some of our high schools like the 12th graders. Those are some of the things that I would like to see.
All right, thank you very much. Willie Davis.
Well, I think the main thing, Donna, is that a lot of our schools, especially our elementary schools, have tried to create parent universities, and they talk about different issues and also try to help parents be more involved in their child's education, being more involved in getting into the school. This is something that normally we take for granted. We just assume that anytime somebody sends their child to school, that child is ready and that the parent is ready. So that's part of the problem. So some of those resources, we need to understand that education starts really before pre-K, and our parents need to be involved. And that involvement also means that when we talk about discipline in our schools, it just doesn't happen when you walk into that school. This is something that as parents, that we have to take responsibility to make sure that when our kids go to school, that they know how to behave. So a lot of it is like the parent universities where you're trying to teach parents how to help their kids studying, because a lot of time, all of our parents, they don't know how to help with homework. So these are some of the resources that we need to put in place so our kids are better prepared when they enter pre-K so they can be successful students. And I think that's the key point, just the parent university that schools are doing now.
All right, thank you very much. Franchesca Warren.
I think before starting off, we're in a, we literally see kids who are coming to school who have a lot of social and emotional issues. I think the first thing that we can do is to beef up our wraparound services in South Fulton, meaning that we go through and that we are giving resources to families, to schools, on how do you work with students who are suffering from issues around social and emotional learning. It could be mental health issues, it could be housing insecure issues, it could be tutoring issues, but putting that wraparound services, that if we know that we have a child who is struggling mentally, that we have an access point to get them help, and to bring community partners to help with that. We are, in many of our schools, it is becoming unreasonable for teachers and for principals to handle the amount of emotional issues kids are bringing in. In addition, we have so many talented students in South Fulton. We really want to make sure that we have an internship program available starting in middle school. It is shown, research has shown that middle school is usually the age where kids really start to act out. And many kids say, oh, it's boring, I don't like school. And so you really want to look at starting in 6th grade, an internship program where you are matching kids with things you think they want to do. You think you want to be a gamer? How about we have one of these, have an outside agency come in and help our students with that interest. That way that you're keeping kids engaged in school, but you're also feeding the need for them to figure out what they want to do in their lives. In addition, I really want to see our schools do a mentoring collaborative. There has been so much talk in the last 5 to 7 years around youth crime. What I know in working from schools is that usually in about 3rd to 4th grade, teachers, principals, families start to see kids starting to act out for a variety of reasons. In South Fulton, we have a lot of mentoring organizations. We really need everybody to sit at the table and figure out what's everybody offering and then how we can match them with the schools so that schools aren't having to do that type of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question. Do board members, the board, have a role in the day-to-day operation of the district? And we start with Willie Davis.
No. I've served as a former school board chair of a private school, and the board has one employee, and this has been part of our problem in the past. The board has one employee, and that is the superintendent. When the board tries to handle the day-to-day operation of the district, that's when we get into problems. That's why we keep having a turnaround of superintendent. Once we hire a superintendent, then we ought to trust that person to do their job. The board has only one employee. The board should not be involved in any activities that are taking place in any of our schools, and trust that superintendent. And that's been part of our problem in the past. That's why it's been such a turnover in superintendent. It is not the board's responsibility. And I see that a lot of that does happen. And that's probably part of the problem that we have with our schools, because principals feel like if they don't do what the board wants, then that jeopardizes their job. But board should only talk to the superintendent, and that's the only employee that they have, and they ought not to be involved in any day-to-day operation of any of our schools.
Right, thank you very much. Franchesca Warren.
No. So as a board member, your job, you hire the superintendent does their job. Your job is to go into the community and speak with parents so that you know what's happening in your schools. So the day-to-day hiring, firing, workings of a school, no, you are there to make sure that your constituents, the parents, the community, the families in South Fulton know that you're accessible and that you are there to help them as they make sure that they get their child's education. You employ the superintendent. So you need to be able to go to the superintendent and say, I have questions about this. What do you think about this? But as a board member, my goal is not to be involved in the day-to-day operations of schools. Even when I worked on SGC or PTA, I did not concern myself with the day-to-day happenings in schools. The principal, the teachers, the assistant principals, they can run their schools. But one of the things that we have to work on is what are some policies, what are some things that we can do that bridge that gap so that parents don't feel disconnected to the schools and that board members actually know what's happening in your schools.
All right, thank you very much. Sandra Wright.
Again, I can piggyback on Willie Davis's statement. The board only has one employee, and that is the superintendent. We have had some great superintendents over the years, but unfortunately, some way or somehow, they just kind of disappeared. And I think it has something to do with the way the board took a look at some things, but I do not think that we as a board should have anything to do with the day-to-day operations. Once we decide on who the superintendent is, I think we should give him autonomy in regards to deciding what is happening in the school system. And as the superintendent deals with the area superintendents and the principals, they have hired those people, and they have hired those people for their leadership skills, and we should let them use their leadership skills, because if we don't, we're stepping in as a board and we're trying to lead someone that we should not be leading. The superintendent should be dealing with all of that. Even as when I was part of the school governance committee, and they were looking at strategic plan. After we did that, then it became a part of the school and the parents and how they want to react to it. But we as a board should not be dealing with what's happening on a day-to-day basis with the school system, because we should be hiring someone that we feel that can abide with our policy and procedures that we submit as a school board.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to go to some of the questions of our participants. George Fields asks, how can technology be leveraged to engage parents? How can technology be leveraged to engage parents? And we're going to start now with Franchesca Warren.
I think that it's 2020, and as we can see from this pandemic, that there were a lot of gaps in kids being ready for technology, technology being out. I think the first thing that we can do to engage with technology is make sure that our teachers are allowed to attend trainings, up-to-date trainings on how to use technology and when best to use it. And also our kids. You know, as we go back, whenever we're able to go back into physical schools, it may be where 1 or maybe 2 days, 1 day out of a 2-week period, where kids are online at school and we're working them through how do you go through and how do you actually operate technology. And so that whenever you have situations like this, they're able to seamlessly go through that. I also think that in order for us to really go through and to really leverage that technology and to make sure is that we sit in the middle of Atlanta, Georgia. We have tons of technology companies. We have Fortune 500 companies who are there, where we can have them come into our middle schools, our high schools, even our elementary schools, and have symposiums for students that are age appropriate. It may be all of our kids right now are going crazy about YouTube. They want to be YouTube stars. So teaching them how do you use a platform like that responsibly? How can teachers use it? And so just making sure that whatever possible, we're relating it to real life learning, what they're doing in class, and partnering outside of the district so that kids are able to see what it really looks like. And also for teachers, because teachers bear a big responsibility in making sure that the technology is being used and being implemented. And so they need those opportunities where they can, you know, play with how to build a robot, or what does this look like in STEM class, and those type of things.
Right, thank you very much. Sandra Wright, your answer to the technology question.
Well, first of all, children, I feel, should be an active participant in their learning. And with this current pandemic that's going on and us having to deal with online learning, I think that this will be a good avenue for the children to let us know what has worked and what has not worked, as well as the teachers to let us know what is working and what is not working. How can we present better professional development regarding online learning? Can you hear me? Hello?
Willie Davis.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, the children have to be an active participant in their learning. And with the pandemic that's going on in the online classes, I think they should be able to tell us what works and what is not working, as well as teachers. The teachers are now having to deal with this pandemic and this digital divide. They can also share with us what's working and what's not working. What do we need to assist them moving forward with this pandemic and other online working? We should also give them professional development classes so they can learn more about technology and share that technology with everyone at the school.
All right, thank you very much. Willie Davis?
Donna, could you repeat the question again? Because
The question from George Fields had to do with technology. How can technology be leveraged to engage parents?
Okay. Well, one of the things is that Fulton for some years now had provided devices to our students, and the kids have, they're very much familiar with it, but I don't think the parents have been familiar with it until we got into this situation, and that becomes a problem, because some of the things with the online learning, while the kids are struggling, the parents are not in a position to help them. And we certainly cannot assume that every teacher is comfortable with the online teaching. And I would agree with what Fran said, that a lot of the teachers probably need to be trained. A lot of our teachers that have been teaching for years, this is a new experience to them. So I think that we have to make sure that they're trained, and also we have to make sure that parents are trained so the parents can assist, because right now, when there's no face-to-face teacher, that we're relying on those parents in a household to assist, and those parents, in some situations in talking to them, everybody's not comfortable reaching out to a teacher asking, hey, how can I help my child during this situation? So training has to be key.
All right, thank you very much. Another question from a participant. Sojourner Marble Grimmett asks, what specifically are your priorities for the district in the coming year, and why and how did you select those particular issues? We're going to start with Sandra Wright.
My priorities are to make sure that we put colleges in positions that we can safeguard our kids from bullying and anything like human trafficking. Some of the other policies that I would like to take a look at is professional development, making sure that we are aligned with other school systems in our area so that our teachers and our support staff can be just as involved and just as educated as other school systems as well. Some of the things that I would like to do is also talk with other school board members and collaborate with them and see what they're doing that is best for their district, so that we can partner with them and maybe do the same thing with our district as well. Some of the things I would like to do is take a look at increasing community involvement, support in South Fulton County schools, dealing with some of the new companies that have come out our way, such as Coca-Cola, Alfred, Amazon. What can they do for us? What can they do for our students? What can they do for our community? Can you provide things like internship, project-based learning? What can you do for our teachers? How can you lift our teachers up? What can you do for the school systems out here? We don't want you to just be here as a business. We want you to be here as a community partner.
All right, thank you very much. Willie Davis.
Well, I have 4 key points. One is pre-K, that it is 43 to 46% of the kids that are in kindergarten are unprepared because they could not go to pre-K. And I want to use my experience at Randolph. When my child was in the pre-K program, there were 2 classrooms. In each one of those classrooms, there was a different approach that each teacher had. When those kids went to the kindergarten, those kindergarten teachers wanted those pre-K kids. So I think that we have to do something to expand pre-K. So either we have pre-K in the school, or we have some families that can afford quality pre-K, or some just put their kids in what's called a pre-K, but it's actually babysitting, but it doesn't benefit that. So we have to do something with pre-K. The other thing that the district is concerned about is the turnover in teachers. A lot of times that those are relating to mental health issues. And when I say mental health issues, it's just teachers are tired. They feel frustrated that they're getting no help in the school, that they're getting no help from parents. So I want to look at somehow helping our teachers cope as it relates to working with parents and working inside the school. The other issues, I think, is that we need to have, I would like to create a task force composed of parents, that any board policy that affects learning, that needs to be reviewed by parents and teachers. How can we, there was a Twitter and it had district officials, 5 people from the district, and they said that they were meeting to deal with dropout rate. And when I saw that, I'm like, well, how do you talk about dropout rate when you don't have a high school principal sitting at the table? So some of the thing is bringing the right people, teachers and parents, to review whatever policy the board is looking at, to give some input, not make a decision and then say, hey, this is what the board voted on last month. So I think we have to get parents involved, and those are the key programs that I'm focusing on right now.
Right, thank you very much. Franchesca Warren, your priorities.
So I think just from this pandemic, I think going into next year, we have to find a way where we can help kids. They have been doing virtual schooling, but helping those students who we already know were behind, bridging the gap. So starting for next year, one of the ideas that I have is that in South Fulton, we have a ton of retired educators. So at some point, we have to work on those kids that we know are struggling, bringing in those retired educators to work with those students one-on-one. Because we know the further kids get behind, the more misbehavior happens, and the more likely the kids are either going to drop out or be behavior problems. Other than that, I really want us to work on making sure that we are working on reducing the testing in K-8. And this is what I mean. So many teachers in South Fulton have talked to me about, we feel like all that we do is test students. And so making sure that the testing that we're using is common sense, meaning that I'm a proponent of understanding what kids know and what we need to get there, but kids don't have to take a test every other day. They don't have to take some type of assessment. Teachers are struggling with having enough time to teach because they're testing. So looking at the assessments that we already have in Fulton County and bringing a common sense approach to how we assess children. Also, the mental health aspect. I started the Teacher Self-Care Conference in 2016, and I travel around the country doing this service. So many teachers are walking into classrooms broken. They are not getting the support they need, and not only teachers, but principals, paraprofessionals, everybody. And so working with wraparound services, not only for our kids, but also for our teachers. In addition, literacy initiatives. Every time we go to a meeting, we hear about how students in South Fulton are struggling in literacy. Well, it's time for us to go ahead and look at some of the schools, some of the partners in the metro area, like
Warren. Thank you, Ms. Warren. I'm sorry. That's
sorry.
a minute. Maybe you can get it in at another time. There's another question from our chat, and that is from Tracy Hessaway. And she says, how can Fulton County board members work to ensure that students in District 4 are able to engage online? We have a huge digital divide in our community. How will you work to lessen the divide in our community? And we'll start with Willie Davis.
Well, one of the things that we found out with this is that there's not enough devices in the homes. And also, even once you get the device, there's not easy access to the internet. So we have to address the internet. We have to address making sure that kids have devices to do not just online, it's just something that's just needed today. And maybe we need to establish some partnerships. I don't know what the county is currently doing with, we've been putting out personal devices, I know for the last 6 or 7 years, what happened with those old devices and whether or not those old devices could be given to families that really, really need computers. Because when the school is out, then you have to turn those devices back in. Then those kids are disadvantaged because they don't have access then to learning. School, and I'll have this quote that I always say, don't let school get in the way of your education. So when those devices are turned back in at the end of the school year, how will those kids be able to continue to learn? So we've got to make sure that they have access to devices. We also got to make sure that they have access to some type of affordable internet service and also the training to be successful in doing that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Franchesca Warren.
Many parents right now are struggling with the amount of work that's being given to their children during the pandemic. And teachers are struggling with, how do I streamline what I want to do? I think the first thing to do the digital divide is to have a conversation about, what does it look like? Who is doing it right? And what can we learn from them? There are many lessons during this pandemic that we've seen, but the number one thing that I think is that it doesn't necessarily mean more. So we have to work with teachers and schools. What does learning look like so that technology complements it and it doesn't become a hindrance? And what we're also finding out throughout all districts in Georgia is that there are a lot of people who do not have access to quality internet. And so you have Xfinity, you have Comcast, you have all these other companies who are offering packages for parents. But what if we did that for the long term? What if we said that we are going to put hotspots in some of our communities where there is not Wi-Fi or the Wi-Fi is spotty? That way, as we're working with kids and as we're trying to get these devices out, that we're making sure that they have the Wi-Fi available to use them. There's been a lot of talk around the computers that students have and what they're using. One of the things that we'll find is that there are many organizations in South Fulton, in Fulton County, all over the metro area, who want to give our students laptops. And so we have to find those partners and say, what kids really need them and how can we get them to them, but also how do you make sure that they're digital natives? A lot of our kids know how to get on a YouTube and they know how to get on social media, but do they really know how to make a project on a computer? Do they really know how to enhance their learning? So it's going to take a lot of workshops sponsored by the school or sponsors by sponsors for us parents to sit down with students, figure out what are kids supposed to be learning and how can technology complement that. But I think coming out of this pandemic, there are a lot of blind spots that we had, and the only way to get over them is to say, here's what we did really well, here's what we could have done better on, and how can we make sure that we work following.
Thank you, Ms. Warren.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warren. Ms. Wright, your answer, 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, I think that if we can partner with some people like AT&T or Xfinity to be able to bring the internet to some of the areas in our district, I've heard of people saying that they brought buses to some of the area schools and area homes and set up buses so that our students can have access to the internet. But these same people hoping that they can also provide devices for our students, but we have to know how many devices are needed. So listening to our parents, being mindful listeners, and talking to the community, and having things like additional parent university discussions about online learning, as well as a citizen academy. So for instance, if our citizen academy comes together, part of them can be part of the community, our community partners, and they can sit and chat with us and tell us what they can provide and how fast they can provide these devices as well as internet access. Some of the students can also share like an internship with them once we get these community partners being a part of the system. So I think one of the key things is that we have to find who our community partners are with so we can advance our online learning and have all of our students have devices, and how we can partner with them to provide more devices for them within the community and some of the students that don't have these devices. It is really critical that all of our students have devices, because this pandemic has really increased online learning. And even after the pandemic is over, we have to put into place different ways that we could connect online. There may be some other online classes that we could do and partner with other community members.
That's right.
As well.
That's time on that question. But the next question actually will follow up on that. So I'll ask that from Sheila Brown. She said, when you are elected, what mitigation will be put in place to help the gap in learning that kids may face due to this pandemic shelter in place during the 2020-21 school year? And so I want to start with Franchesca Warren. You're answering that question first.
I touched on this a little bit earlier, but we have so many retired teachers in South Fulton. We really need to, most of our schools are Title I, and we really need to look at how can we utilize monies so that we can work with those retired educators to come into the schools and to work with those students, either doing specials, either after school, before school, but just be that work, that help that many students need. Sometimes it just takes somebody to sit down with a child and to figure out where the gaps are and to start to fill them. In addition to mitigate that gap, I really think that the board needs to advocate for, we've already, we're not going to have testing this year for Georgia Milestones. Really need to advocate at the legislature to not have it for the following year. Our teachers need as much time to cover the gaps than preparing for a test. And so bringing in those retired educators, advocating for us not to test in the 2020-2021 school year, and also working with the parents. We have a lot of robust Saturday programming, but a lot of times there's a disconnect in parents either wanting their children to go or even knowing that it's happening. How cool would it be for all of South Fulton on Saturday to have learning academies for those kids? Make it fun, make it interactive, but we really have to work with that, because those are the things that are going to give us a return on our money so that students are actually learning and they're not preparing for just another test.
All right, thank you very much. Sandra Wright.
Can you guys hear me pretty good?
We
Because
can.
we seem to
can't
be
see
having
you, but
problems.
we can hear you very well.
Okay. Well, one of the things I like to really talk about is that many times our teachers have been so pushed to teach the test instead of teaching the basics of the test. We need to go back to teaching people how to actually learn instead of teaching the test, like the test for ELA in the Georgia milestones. I really think that we should put that Georgia milestone on hold, but also I am an advocate for teaching, testing early childhood, testing for reading comprehension, testing for dyslexia, because some of our students have reading comprehension problems, but the people that that are there may not necessarily know that these students have learning, reading comprehension problems. I also would like to make sure that put into place some kind of maybe credentialing or certification for our teachers to be more certified in things like Linda Mood Bell. That means that if you have a student in here that has dyslexia, some sort of dyslexia, making sure that we have certified teachers in all of the schools in each grade level to be able to know when these students, I really take a look and say, hey, that student maybe needs to be tested because I see some of the signs that they should be tested. And so this can close the gap too, because if you have students that have reading comprehension problems and you don't know they have reading comprehension problems, then it's going to widen the gap. So by closing the gap, testing early for things like dyslexia, testing early for reading comprehension, teaching not only the test, but just teaching the components of what that class is about would help close the gap tremendously.
All right, thank you very much. Willie Davis?
Well, I think we have two different types of student when it comes to online learning. Some of them get it and some of them doing it because they have to do it. Now, we have to face the realities that classroom instruction have been absent for 2 months. So when we go back to school, whenever we return back to school, all of those kids that are doing online learning, the question is, how much have they learned? And I don't know if I have a quick answer to that, but I think that the teachers, that the administrators have to find a way to sit and find out, because if my son's in the 9th grade, he's doing algebra, I don't know if he gets it when he goes to the next grade level. So we've got to find a way, I don't want to call it testing, but we've got to find some way to evaluate exactly how this experience have benefited some students and not benefited others. And that's just the reality of life, that with online learning, that everybody may not be getting it. And I think to mitigate that is that we are gonna have to find some way to evaluate the situations and see what that child who may not have benefited from this, what needs to be done early on in the new school year. But it's a reality. Just because we're doing online learning doesn't mean everybody is learning. And that's just the truth of the matter.
All right, thank you very much. It's come to the point where we don't have any more time for questions, although we know that people have put their questions in the chat and in the Q&A, and maybe the candidates will have a chance to answer them. And also, I hope you'll reach out to the candidates on their websites. So it is now time for closing statements, and we will now have 2 minutes for each candidate, and we will begin with Sandra Wright. Are you there? You have to unmute.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Donna?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My name is Dr. Sandra Wright. My strength is in leadership and education. I am a co-founder of Chattahoochee Hills Charter School. I'm running for quality education and supporting our teachers with proven, strong curriculum and professional development. I want to restore the community's confidence in our educational system and ensure that our students are receiving a top-notch education. Stronger schools build stronger communities. As we improve communication, as we lift up and raise our schools to a place that suits the 21st century, as we honor different cultures, as we connect families from different groups, as we increase community partnership, ultimately we have a stronger school and stronger communities. As your elected school board member, I will be the bridge between the school district and the community, networking with legislators and lawmakers, as well as keeping informed about legislation that affects Georgia's school system. Will be one of my primary goals as I continue being an effective public education advocate for our school district. I also want to create a culture of voting. Voting is educational. Voting is essential to the preservation of liberties and rights of individuals. Again, when you vote for the change you need and the voice you deserve. I need your vote, and I will appreciate your vote on June 9th.
All right, thank you very much. Willie Davis, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I want to thank the sponsors of this. I think it was a great opportunity for us to reach out to voters. Let me just say this, that when we talk about success in our schools, that our focus should be not only should our kids graduate from our schools, but our kids should be prepared for the future. We have to accept the reality that everybody is not going to college. And we keep saying do well in school and you're going to go to college. We want our kids to do well, but we have to offer programs that are beneficial to students. I serve as a college and career coach now at Skyview High School. And most of those kids are over there because they just wasn't doing it in school. And when I talked to them about college and career, they said, hey, why don't we have something that teach barber skills? Why don't we have anything that teach hair, anything like that? So we need to do something about that. Also, we recognize our athletes when they sign letters of intention, but what do we do for those who are in our JROTC program that are going into the military that we need to recognize them? So I think we have to be focused on serving the needs of every student. That's 95,000 students that are in our district. And it's not just South Fulton, it's North Fulton. And we have got to be able to work together. We have got to be able to do something for our kids and offer them opportunities and not just push them off on college, but vocational, technical schools, military, or work program that's going to benefit them so they can be successful in school where we don't have to worry about them losing interest and dropping out. So I ask for your vote, Willie G. Davis for Fulton County School Board. And I say this as a part of inclusion and diversity. It is time that a man serve on the Fulton County Board.
All right, thank you very much. Franchesca Warren, 2 minutes.
The year is 2020, and if we haven't learned anything by now, is that we have to move with intention when we're talking about education. Far too many times in South Fulton, throughout all the Facebook groups, the next door messages, we hear our community members complain about what their kids are receiving or are not receiving in our schools. It starts with us. It starts with advocacy. Not only am I a parent of 4 children, but I've done the work to understand what it takes to help move schools, to help move parents, and to help bring the community together. One of the things that I think in 2020 that we are going to see is that the school board holds such an important part of the community. This is somebody who directly impacts how your houses, how your community is viewed. So you need somebody in that position that not only has children in the system, but understands that you have to do the work that is going to be a part of it. South Fulton is near and dear to my heart. I get phone calls from parents all times of night. And one of the things that I always tell them is that it starts with us. The moment that we stop speaking out about things that we find unjust or that aren't right for kids is the moment that all of our students suffer. So I ask you on June 9th to vote for me, the only educator running for the seat, Franchesca Warren. You can find out more about my campaign at www.electfrancesca.com. And remember, it's not about electing the man. It's not about electing somebody, just anybody to the board. It's about electing experience. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you to all the candidates. It's been a good forum, and I think you've enlightened us a lot about who you are and what you stand for. I'll now turn it back over to Daphne Jordan.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you to everyone for your participation tonight. I along with myself and Demita, are honored to be able to bring this platform to life in the midst of COVID-19 so that the public can hear and see from you all, being that that is very difficult right now for them to do. I also want to thank everyone who participated, who actually registered. If you registered, you will receive a link to view this entire presentation in its entirety along with the password. So that's the benefit of registering for these events. But right now I'm going to turn it over to Demita to see if she has any final words. And then we will hear from Karen Renee, second vice president for the NAACP Atlanta chapter. And we'll also hear from the president of the NAACP, Mr. Richard Rose, if he has any final words as well. Demita?
I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. I want to thank Daphne. She's awesome. I want to thank Donna Laurie. I want to thank the NAACP president and vice president, and I want to thank the guests. When me and Daphne got together to do this, this was all about really just bringing the community together, letting the community know who's on the ticket, making sure we get the right candidates. I'm going to say this, and I'll say it till I guess I leave South Fulton. We got to be mindful who we get. We got to make sure that we vet these candidates out, and they're going to work for the people. It ain't about me. It ain't about Daphne. It's about the people. So again, I want to thank you guys for coming out. I thought it was a great forum tonight, although the devil tried to mess with the little audio, but that's all right. It was still great. I want to thank you guys. And again, thank Mr. Rose and Miss Renee. Awesome. And thank all you candidates. You be safe. And this will be over soon. Thank you guys.
Okay, Miss Renee, you're unmuted.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for having this forum. It's very critical for our communities. The school board is one of the biggest budgets everywhere in the state or even in your counties. And to have the right person on the board representing our communities is very, very important. We must pay more attention to these elections, and especially the school board. We have members that have been serving for years that does not represent our communities. And we need to make sure, as Ms. Demita Chapman has stated, that the people that we're selecting will represent our community and make sure that the fundings are going back to the needed areas. All students are not equal as far as economics, and those fundings are critical for our districts. And so I want to say thank you for this. We also have another, in Fulton County, we also have another people who are running for in District 3 that are running, Jimmy Glenn and Gail Dean. Jimmy Glenn is the person that is running against the incumbent, and we want to make sure that people are aware of those things. We get a lot of phone calls in NAACP, especially during the school session, and a lot of our young people are being mistreated in the school and been expelled for the smallest and the most minor things. And a lot of times when we have students that are in transition for no fault of their own, some of those students do come to school with some additional concerns. So thank you so much for having us. This is a critical election this year, especially for the school board members. And we want to make sure all of our residents are represented properly. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. Okay, Mr. Rose.
Well, good evening again, and thank the candidates, and thank Ms. Lowry, Ms. Chapman, and of course, Ms. Jordan. The NAACP, as Karen said, we get a lot of calls. We field 1,000 calls and emails a month. And we appreciate the volunteer, the candidates who will stand for election. We know it's a tough, public service is tough. But don't forget, the NAACP is there. Karen and I do something every day. Join us. Membership is only $30 a year. Life member is $750. You can pay $75 a year over 10 years. Keep us strong because we try to keep the community strong. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And before I go, I did not thank Donna. Donna, you did an amazing job once again. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Best of luck to all of the candidates. Thank you again to the NAACP. And last but not least, thank you to my counterpart, Demita Chapman, for helping me to pull this all together. We'll see you all again. Our next forum is for the state representatives. It will be held on May 7th. So we'll see you all then. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.